Hi there, I want to share some brief words of Torah with you about this week's Parsha, Parshas Bahaloscha. In this week's Parsha, the Torah tells us about the process that the Jewish people would go through when they would travel in the desert. And it says, Al pi Hashem yachanu ve'al pi Hashem yisou, that it was by the mouth of Hashem that they camped, it was by the mouth of Hashem that they traveled. In English we would say Hashem told them when to go, and Hashem told them when to stop. And it wasn't so simple. Sometimes they traveled for a day or two. Sometimes they traveled for days on end. But see, the difficulty wasn't necessarily in traveling, because eventually they knew they would stop. The difficulty was in the camping, because they never knew when they would have to start traveling again. And the Parsha tells us that the way they would do it, the way that they would be aware of when to travel exactly, is by the formation of the clouds. There was one cloud just above them, protecting them, and those are the clouds that we commemorate on Sukkot. And then there was a cloud on top of the Mishkan. It was a pillar of cloud. And when that pillar, explains the Sforno, was bent in a certain direction, at that time the Jewish people knew it was time to start traveling. They would go and they'd follow Hashem's word. And the Sforno makes a very, very interesting comment here that I think is worthy of consideration and perhaps relevant to us in our everyday life. The Sforno writes, the fact that it says that the place that they camped was where the Anan, where the cloud of glory was over the Mishkan. Siper zechuson shel Yisrael, alechtam acharav bamidbar. The Torah is telling us over the zechut, the merit of the Jewish people, for the fact that they walked after Hashem in the desert. Famous pasuk that the Navi quotes, and we say it on Rosh Hashanah. Ko amar Hashem lechtech achar bamidbar be'eretz lo zerua. Zacharti la chesed ni'urayich. This is what Hashem said, I remember the kindness of your youth. Your youth meaning when you were a nation, a young nation, a na'ar. And as a young nation, the kindness that you extended to me, that you followed me, literally blindly. You just did exactly as I said. And even if you camped in a place which was desolate, you stayed there. And if you camped in a place that was lovely and you wanted to stay there, but I wanted you to keep moving, you kept moving. In an Eretz Lo Zeru, in a land that was not planted, there was nothing there. It was barren, it was dry, it was arid, desert. And this is the idea that Sforno says. The fact that we camped al pi Hashem, the fact that we traveled al pi Hashem, that we traveled and we camped according to the will of Hashem, without questioning, that is a zechus for Klal Yisrael. It's a zechus for Klal Yisrael in our youth. But if you think perhaps how that may be relevant to us every single day, that we too have, in a certain sense, our own travelings and our own campings. And sometimes they don't make a whole lot of sense. But if we do it al pi Hashem, if we recognize Hashem as being the master of manipulation, of controlling exactly what it is that happens to us when they happen, that itself, Hashem will view as a chesed, and he will respond in kind, with rachamim and with chesed, with much mercy and kindness. May Hashem bless all of us to lead lives where we don't have to see that. We shouldn't be in an Eretz Lo Zerua, but rather we should be in an Eretz Zerua, a land that's not barren and arid, but a land that's planted and green and lush, with the return of Mashiach Tzidkenu b'mehera v'yameinu. Have a great Shabbos.